Foreign governments around the world have supported the US government by purchasing their debt, allowing them to continue to consume at record rates. There are no possible avenues out of this madness when the policy of spending beyond reason will not be reversed. It seems that the times are changing, as these governments have been looking outside the US for various reasons, ultimately weakening the long-term outlook. You came here for the truth, so let me unveil that for you. Today, we will discuss how foreign governments are dumping US debt at record rates. If you look to the right-hand side of this screen, you will see a pile of garbage. And although this was taken in Toronto, the depiction is about US debt. In fact, when you look at debt, what it is, to myself at least, it's garbage. That's what it is. But when one country buys the debt of another country, even though they're in debt themselves, that's an asset. So think about that for a second. Let's move into this here. Janet Yellen said that it is perfectly acceptable for individuals, including senior Fed officials, should be able to let's call it invest in the campaigns of different presidents. Now, I do believe that this is fine. They should be able to invest, not an unlimited amounts, but they should be able to have campaign contributions just as anyone else does. What they go on to say is that they're a non-partisan independent institution devoted to pursuing our congressionally mandated objectives. Overall, of course, we know that's not true, but the first point that they're non-partisan, I do actually agree with this because they go beyond the government. They have nothing to do with the government, in fact. That's what the joke is. This is a little bit of comedy just to open up the video here. This information is out of Reuters. I think this is huge, and it really goes to show you how accurate I have been. Words don't always come easy for the world's central bankers, as Mario Draghi was reminded last week. Check this out. At first, wowing the markets on March 10th, his news conference is the bigger than expected easing package. Then he goes into basically saying that rates may have bottomed out. So I covered that here on the channel. Markets eventually calmed, but the reaction to the comment was essentially that central bank communications, and they call forward guidance, can go wrong. He explains why some are already backing away from his relatively new tool. So I've told you countless times before, and if there's anybody out there who's willing to agree with me, please do say so right now. I talked about the fact that they don't even need to actually do anything. They just need to go to one of these meetings and say what they're going to do, and that will be enough to move the markets. I also said how the markets price in their words or actions, I should say their words, before the actions take place. So if they say we're going to do QE4 next year, 2017, and perhaps they say, okay, we're going to increase interest rates to, I'll make something up, 5% by 2019. The market knows this and prices that in accordingly. They give the example about Alan Greenspan's warning of irrational exuberance, and also Draghi's promise to do, quote, whatever it takes to preserve the euro. Their words are more powerful in some cases than their actions, because their actions are so political. They always have to increase interest rates at a very, very, very slow rate, or decrease them at a very, very slow rate. They're always one step behind, at least one step behind. Forward guidance can be an especially powerful tool because it signals policy intent, sometimes years into the future, reassuring or warning households and corporations about a future path of interest rates. Remember, it's not about their actions, it's about their words. They don't even have to get into QE4, they just need to tell you that they're doing it. That's how sad this has become. Foreign governments are dumping US debt like never before. So here's a very important piece of information. In a bid to raise cash, foreign central banks and government institutions sold $57 billion of U.S. Treasury debt and other notes in January alone, according to the figures released. That is up from 48 billion in December and the highest monthly tally on record going back to 1978. It's part of a broader trend that gathered steam last year when central banks sold a record of 225 billion of U.S. debt. So remember this. There's a lot of people on this channel, a lot of individuals out there, so-called gurus, who will speak to the fact that the U.S. will never die. The U.S. empire will never fall. The U.S. dollar will never fall. The petrodollar will never fall. All currency systems must be replaced at some point. I'm not saying it's going to happen tomorrow. I'm not saying it's going to happen 2016, 2017. But at some point, things have to change. Systems change. That's just the way it is. And this happens to be one that is slowly but surely dying. Now, does that mean that the US dollar can have the strength that it has today for multiple years from now? Absolutely. It could happen. But we see a trend growing. And as these new institutions like the AIIB and the BRICS and everything else are really collecting together, things are changing over time. And that's the way that we have to basically look at this down the road, understand how it will all play out, and try to be one step ahead. Don't be like the Federal Reserve. You have to be one step ahead. In my book, I drew up this diagram, and it basically references the U.S. and the Fed's relationship. So just to quickly cover it, the U.S. sells its debt to the Fed, so the Fed gives it this fresh printed currency, and the U.S. gives it IOUs or bonds. And what's happening here is that the Fed is left with a pile of IOUs, a pile of garbage. The hope is that somebody eventually will buy it off their hands. That's not going to happen. We know that. So ultimately, what we have is the Federal Reserve left with a pile of garbage. They're going to have to print their way out of this mess. Changing gears a little bit right here for this article and the next, Venezuela is shutting down for a week as the government struggles with a deepening electricity crisis. This is one country which it seems like every week there's something worse and worse happening there, and they actually have an electricity crisis. We're looking at food being rationed. You're looking at water supplies across the country because of their power systems here. There is so much at stake right here, and it goes to show how quickly things can devolve. If everything gets fixed today in Venezuela, it would be such a long period of time before they can actually recover from this mess. New York's Plaza Hotel up for a sale in foreclosure auction. It's very interesting to see how many times this hotel has changed hands over the years. But all I'm trying to discuss for this here is that in any region, you have ups and downs. You have the rich class and you have the poor class. You have those who are the haves and the have-nots. And you have assets, which may be at the high end and at the low end. And if you look at the prices of New York's real estate, particularly in Manhattan, you see it's a huge problem for those who are looking into this as an asset itself, trying to figure it out. Why are the prices going so high? It's a big disaster waiting to happen, but it doesn't mean that the prices can't continue to go up. Look at the interest rates. As there become less options to invest in, you will see certain assets, particularly in certain regions, and it sort of closes in and in and in, and that group narrows down, and you see the charts become parabolic. If you want a good example of this, look at tech in late 2007, mid 2007, when sort of everything was starting to come downward. You saw that tech was sort of the last remaining asset to buy into. And what happened, of course, just like everything else, it came crashing down. This is what happens with all assets. It's no different, and I'm just showing you this as one example. If you found this video informative, please give me a thumbs up. When you give me the thumbs up, it really helps the channel out. It really helps get the word out because it brings these videos higher up in the search results. So I appreciate every time you do that. And last but not least, if you found the video informative, I know you'll find my book, The Money GPS, even more informative. You can head over to Amazon where they have a look inside feature, and it will allow you to flip through the pages of the book and see if you like it. Take care.